The opening scene happens in Estonia. Anna, a new art therapy teacher, enters the San Institute, a psychiatric facility. In the next scene, a security alert goes off saying a patient called Lena is missing from her room. The new teacher is locked up in a room for safety reasons. She notices a person sitting in the chair in the same room. The person had drawn a portrait of the art teacher. She is actually the patient, Lena, who is missing from her room. She slowly gets up holding a pencil in her hand and starts approaching the art teacher. Luckily, the staff arrives on time and saves the teacher from getting hurt. The staff tells that Lena is a grown woman, who actually looks like a child because of a gland disorder that resulted in dwarfism. He also explains that she is an exceptional con artist. The teacher conducts an art class, while Lena and Itti, and another inmate are drawing. Lena signals Itti to attack her teacher. Itti then rushes towards the teacher in a furious rage. However, she is handled by the staff and she calms down after Lena gives her a candy. Seems like Lena had trained Itti this way to attack anyone she wants, which she will once again use. She escapes the facility by killing 2 staff members of the institute with the help of Idlety. When the art teacher is about to start the vehicle, she is startled to see Lena with blood stains on her in front of the car. Then she starts driving home. Once she reached her home, she sees that her trunk of the car is open. Upon entering the house, she is stunned to find Lena standing in the hallway. Lena hits her on the head and knocks her out. She then goes on to browse missing children in the US on the teacher's computer. She finds a missing child called Esther, who resembles exactly like her. She dresses up as Esther and leaves the house. On the way out, she kills the teacher who was already helpless on the ground. Esther's parents are notified that their daughter is now in Russia and that she was abducted by a Russian woman. Esther's mom Trisha flies down to Estonia and brings Lena to the US. She is then taken to a child counselor, where the counselor asks her about where she was for so long, but she ignores the question and goes on to play with the parrot in the counselor's room. The counselor goes on to tell her mother that something was unusual about Esther. Lena, who is now in the place of Esther, overhears their conversation. She did not like the way the conversation was going. She wanted to put an end to their conversation. So she deliberately tears her own dress and blames a small kid nearby, saying that he attacked her. She was then taken to Esther's home. Esther's father is an artist. He takes her to show his art collection in his studio. She tells him that she wants to draw him. She quickly draws a portrait of his and he is quite shook at her exceptional ability to draw. Meanwhile, the mom, who is on the phone in the other room, watches them from the window in a suspicious manner. During dinner, a detective comes home to visit the family to inquire about Esther's abduction. But her father tells him that it would be good if she talks about her past life in Russia to her therapist or family members instead of a cop. Meanwhile, Esther, who goes to the other room under the pretext of filling her glass, eavesdrops their conversation. She returns back to the table without filling her glass. The cop looks at her suspiciously and leaves the place. In the next scene, the parents leave for a gala event, and Esther and her brother are left alone at home. The brother starts partying with his friends. The police officer who came home earlier comes to their home and asks for his parents. He learns from the brother that both of them had gone for an event. The police officer excuses himself to go to the restroom, only to go to Esther's room and collects her hairbrush and the record that she has been playing. Esther notices that the policeman had come into her room and she finds that her record is missing. She turns on the water in the bathroom and leaves it running, and she goes to the police officer's home. Meanwhile, the policeman takes her fingerprint from the record to compare it to that of Esther's and finds that both are different. Esther, who had sneaked inside his house, sees the results of the fingerprint on the computer screen and stabs him multiple times from the back. Since she doesn't know anything about forensics, she questions herself as how does he know that she is not Esther? The policeman, who was on the verge of dying, reveals the surprising fact that even her mother knows that she is not Esther. Immediately, 2 gunshots are heard. The camera pans to Trisha, Esther's mother, shooting down on the police officer. Trisha then sits down Esther and tells her that she knows that she is an escaped mental patient and a wanted criminal. Now that she knew that her original self was revealed, she asks the mother to let her go and she will never be seen again. The mother, Trisha, reveals a shocking information that she doesn't want Esther to disappear twice. And that Esther's brother had played rough with Esther and accidentally Esther had passed away. Trisha and Gunnar had hid the body. Alan, The father has not been the same since the disappearance of Esther, and he doesn't know what actually happened to Esther. She threatens Esther that she was going to play the part, which she came here to play, so the sacrifice Trisha made, to keep the family together, wouldn't go to waste or she gets shipped back to Estonia. Then Trisha and Esther goes to dump the body of the policeman in the same place as the original Esther's body was dumped. Trisha then tells Gunnar who actually Esther is. He freaks out, saying it is insane and dangerous to let a psychopath living in their house. Trisha says we will handle her when the right time comes. Meanwhile, Esther watches them talking about her from her room. Meanwhile, it was time for Esther to meet her therapist. Trisha helps Esther with trips and memories of the original Esther she had with her parents. Esther recalls exactly a trip to Yellowstone as how her father fell over a horse to the therapist. The therapist concludes that Esther is back to normal and is healthy. Cut to next scene, Esther meets some of the family's old friends and returns to her room, only to find Gunnar in her room. He berates her, saying this is not her house or her family, so she needs to behave herself and not act like she is like his family. During supper, Trisha adds a sleeping medicine to Esther's food. The father Alan wanted to show Esther his art gallery in the city tomorrow. Trisha interrupts, says she and Esther has other plans. This infuriates Esther. She leaves to her room. Trisha asks her to take her dinner with her and says she can have it in her room. Esther angrily enters her room and places her food for the rat in her room to eat. Meanwhile, Alan comes to her room asking if she is okay. She says she didn't like Mom's cooking so much. Alan agrees with her, saying he too isn't a fan of her food either. He invites her to paint in his studio, as he usually enjoys painting at night. The two of them is seen painting and chatting about art, while Trisha is watching them from the window of the room across the studio. Esther holds Alan's hands and kisses his hand, which Trisha notices. Trisha comes to the studio and talks down to Esther, saying her not be stupid enough to think that Alan would be attracted to a psycho dwarf. Esther returns to her room to find the rat dead near her plate of food she had placed for the rat. She now learns the plan of Trisha. The next morning, Esther is seen cooking for the whole family. She had made a smoothie for Trisha that she usually drinks. Trisha is suspicious and avoids drinking it. Alan persuades her to drink it. She takes a sip and pours the rest of it in the sink. She finds a dead rat in the poured down smoothie and is disgusted by it. Then they leave to the railway station, to help board Alan onto the train. She finds an opportunity to kill Trisha and Gunnar. She comes behind them to push them onto the railway track. An elderly man stops her from causing the damage. Trisha is now onto her plans. Trisha tells that the arrangement she made with her is now over. Esther pulls the bag from Trisha and takes out the pepper spray and sprays it on Gunnar, who was about to grab the bag from her. She then runs, grabbing the car keys, and takes the car, leaving Trisha behind. Trisha immediately informs the police that their daughter had taken their car. Meanwhile, Esther was enjoying her car ride and a police car was following her. She pulls over her car. The cop identifies her as Esther and she was surprised as how the police knew that it was her. She is then returned to Trisha. Once they enter their house, Trisha and her son plans on killing Esther. Meanwhile, the brother holds down Esther. Trisha plans to make it look like a suicide by cutting her wrists. She escapes them and runs, however she is thrown down the stairs by the brother and she lies motionless at the bottom of the stairs. Trisha and Gunnar assume she is dead. The next moment they see, Esther is gone. Trisha asks Gunnar to go down and finish Esther. Gunnar goes in search of Esther with his sword. Meanwhile, Esther shoots him down with a crossbow and stabs him to death. Trisha, who comes in search of Gunnar and Esther, finds Gunnar stabbed to death. She chases Esther to kill her and a fight ensues between them in the kitchen. The fight continues on the roof because of the fire started in the kitchen. Alan, who comes home, also goes to the roof to find Esther and Trisha hanging on for their dear life. Trisha tells that Esther is not their daughter and that she is a grown woman. Alan tries to help Trisha up the roof but somehow she misses his hand and falls down. Alan saves Esther and checks her face if she has been hurt, when her fake teeth comes out of her mouth. Esther tells she did all this for them. But Alan shouts at her for deceiving him and she pushes him down from the roof. Esther alone survives. Esther is shown as she is waiting to be adopted into a new home through an adoption agency. Hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, Don't forget to subscribe and thank you for watching. Check out the other videos from our channel.